and the UCSSC Sports Coaching Education. Thank you. Coming from Canada, we would like to introduce the coach, the national coach that will be speaking to you in front. Okay. Well, it's on the camera. Okay. Sorry. It's not face to face. None other than Coach Pierre Lafontaine.
Thank you very much. I want to talk to you a little bit today. My discussion really is about your role as coaches. My journey has been around the world, and the reason I was around the world is I was always looking to find ways to be even better than I was the day before, which is what I think coaches should be aiming at. My question to all of you is, okay, well, you're sitting through this lecture and you're sitting through level 1 and level 2 and everything else. Coaches around the world take coaching education. But, the coaching education is only ever going to be as good as how you get up every day and what you do to inspire your kids. Because at the end, they could be great. I say this all the time, even when I was running different organizations. We have good administrators, good coaches, but if the coaches are not doing and inspiring the next generation, then, it's just another job. And I don't think coaching is just another job. I really think it's a passion and it's a reason that you get up for. I've been lucky enough to coach some great kids around the world. And probably the best luck is I didn't screw them up too much by overcoaching them or any of these things. Let me go through a bunch of things. To me, the first thing, and I was talking yesterday about exactly that concept, is why do you coach, and why do you coach to a point where kids want to go through walls for you? And I think that's the game that we're in. Greatness happens from everywhere. Just keep remembering this. I was in the Atlantic region this past week working with a couple of little clubs. This is where the provincial bodies in Canada that are east of Canada, right off the Atlantic Ocean, there's only 2 clubs. But my point to them was, you guys have a 25-meter pool, 8 lane, backstroke flags, starting blocks, great coaches. Let's go. You could win Olympic medals from everywhere. And I hate to think that a coach would go, wow, we're not so lucky here. We don't have this. We don't have that. Well, I've seen world records happen from 20 meters pool. They don't have to be 50 meters. They don't have to be perfect. They just need an inspiring coach that will find solutions to everything that's a problem. And that's why I say impossible is not a word in our world. I am possible is the word that we should be teaching. So if there's a problem, find a solution. Don't just say, I don't know, I can't do it. So, your most important people are the people that open the pools for you. If you don't have the key, the nicest people you need to be with is these people. And then you just need to get these kids a pathway in their mind that, in Manila, we could win Olympic gold medals like in LA, like in Montreal, and like in Paris, or like anywhere. You don't have to be super special. You just have to outwork everybody and outcoach everybody and get in the weight room and be strong and really make a difference. A couple of points that I think are important is athletes don't have a long window of operation. They might be doing it for 5 or 10 or 15 years. You might be coaching for 40 years. I was coaching 50 years. So every day for them is important. But if we just take the job going, well, it's a long job and, I'm going to coach and you're not inspiring that moment, well, maybe you're missing the point for inspiring a kid that maybe on that day they were ready to go. That day was going to be the day that they were going to be engaged and you were going to move forward with them. But, you had a fight with your wife or your husband, with you're tired or you didn't prepare properly. You miss that opportunity. And that's what we do as coaches. Energy is contagious. You walk on the pool deck. I've always made a point that I was going to be the first one on the pool deck. And I was going to make sure I'm the last one leaving the pool deck. And I say hi to everybody. And so I think your energy is what changes the environment for performances. They're not cars that you sell. They're not things. They're people with emotions, and they're people with headaches and fight with their parents, and don't understand because you're coaching one way and they're more visual. So I think a coach is everything. A coach is the person that will find the way to get the performance. I also often talk about, coaches often use, we got to be perfect at what we're doing. And I'm going, no, you don't. You have to be excellent. You have to be better today than you were yesterday. To me, that's the motto. Performance, perfection is a place where you fail because you never are perfect. You don't want to create an environment where there's only perfection that's get rewarded. It's getting better today than you were yesterday, I think, to me, is the thing. Innovation in your training, I think, is crucial because boredom is what makes people quit, not burnout. Burnout is boredom. Burnout is it's not interesting workouts. Burnout is I don't see the progression every day. I kick better today than I did yesterday. I did less stroke today than I did yesterday. These are the tools that you use in your coaching to allow kids to go, wow, like I'm going home and I'm better. Very much like the kids that play football in training and they scored 5 goals in training against the goalie while they were training. They go in the car with their moms and dad and say, hey, Dad, I scored 5 times today, the 8-year-old and the 10-year-old and the 15-year-old. So what are the winning of every day for these kids? That's the difference between you and another coach. Create the daily winning, whether it's kicking or fast or swimming or best 50 in practice or a set they've never done. You build confidence by doing things you've never done in your life. That's what we create with these kids. Not failures every day, just things you've never done in your life. Technical expertise for a coach and coaching technique is, to me, probably the number one thing that's crucial in the development of coaches. I think we try to train people through performance. No. You teach incredible techniques at all levels, 8-year-old to 25-year-old. You're always the eyes for the athletes, and you're the one that looks at, think about putting your hands like this instead of like that, or get that elbow by your ear, but you're the one that sees the changes that could happen. I was working yesterday with a 9-year-old for an hour, just about her pull out underwater for breaststroke, and trying to keep your head down all the way through the pull out, finishing your feet, get your feet up, and so on and so forth. And even 9-year-old understand, they're little people that are pretty smart. And probably a lot smarter than I was when I was 9 years old, let me tell you. I think you need to plan your program, but you need to plan recovery and competition before you plan the whole season or the whole 3 months or the week. Recovery is what makes you improve and get stronger, not hard work all the time until they get sick. So plan the recovery. I'm going to go 2.5 days hard or 2 days hard, 1 day easy. On the easy, we'll do those techniques and so on. Or there's 3 or 4 meets where kids will really feel like they're going fast, and we're really going to taper for 1 big one or 2 big ones a year. But they need to see successes every day. My experience with this is I had 3 kids that were in rock climbing when I lived in Australia. And when you go see these kids train in rock climbing, every day they get better because they climb up a little higher by one or two little rocks or whatever. And they go home. I remember my kids, I picked them up and they go, hey, Dad, like I did this, I did that every day. And I remember going, wow, my swimmers certainly don't do that. I better kind of change my coaching to, even at the international level, to create those daily wins. And it can't happen if they're always exhausted to pieces. Being tough on these swimmers is being intelligent on the swimmers, not destroy their spirit and destroy their soul. You know, what makes them live and be energized is the world of possibilities ahead of them. And then, you know, you create the strength program attached to it. You know, what I mean by that is you create, okay, I'm going to train for 3 months doing this or that. But, you know, keep thinking that we're only 3.5 years out of the Olympics, or 7.5 years out of the Olympics that are in Brisbane in 2032. Well, you know what 7 years are? It's a 15-year-old that's now 22 years old. 22-year-old win at the Olympics. 15-year-olds don't win at the Olympics. So you've got this kind of the ability to have this program that looks at a 7-year plan, and you pick away at it. You know, you always plan from the end product back. And I keep saying to you guys, if you want to be a coach, and that's what you're doing, that's what you're sitting here with me for, well, you got to be different than everybody else. You got to outwork people. You got to be finding ways to get people excited to come to your training session. You know, you got to explain to them what you're looking for. And so, you know, to me, I saw a quote when I was in Arizona about a month ago, giving another clinic similar to this. And there was a thing on the bus, a line on the bus that said, changing the future from Arizona to the world. Why not? And I'd say changing the future from Manila or from Kenya to the world. You know, if other athletes in your country could be competitive at the international level, why not in swimming? That's up to you. You know, I always find, though, that there's, you know, countries bring people like me and David Marsh and so on and so forth to give clinics. I think there's a good backup plan for you guys using us to come to your country and do a 2 or 3 week clinic. That's not a problem. I think the problem is if the clinic happens and then you go back to the old ways, or you take this course and you go back to the old ways, then it doesn't really do anything. You know, I've said sometimes, you know, do you have 10 years experience or 20 years experience? Or do you have 20 years of the same year that you do every year? You know, that's where there's no change in you. But if you do 20 years and you learn from year to year and you go, okay, what can I do better this year? You know, I think that's kind of what I think how you get to be a better coach. I go back to always the point, and I talk to the coach here. I don't talk about the environment. I'm going to talk to you about creating an environment a bit better. But you are the one that creates the performance with the athletes. Not me in the office, you in the pool deck. Me in the office is there to help you. But you are the ones that will make a kid dream, whether they're 8-year-old or they're 25 years old. And so take that responsibility. It is a responsibility that changes the world. That's the way I see it. The question that I would ask yourself is, why would I come and train with me? Not me, Pierre, but me as you as the coach, instead of going to another pool. What makes me different than everybody else? I had a presentation with the PGA, the golf pros in Canada, a few years ago, and I said, why would I drive besides 17 golf courses before I go to you to get the private lesson? What makes me different than everybody else? And these are questions that I always, when I go to morning training or afternoon training and I prepare, whether I'm in the car or I'm riding my bike, or I go, okay, like what energy do I want to create on that workout? And I think that's similar to a teacher in your kid's classroom. You know, you don't want a boring teacher. You don't want a teacher that doesn't inspire. You want somebody that really brings a sparkle in a kid's eyes. And so that's what you should be. And I also think that you need to help create a history in your country. What happened before happened before. What happens forward is you. And what are you going to do to create history within your country? And I think that's, to me, is important. I'll give you a statistics. 95% of C-suite, like in corporations, 94% of women that are in the management role used to do sport before. So the lesson learned from the sport and the women's program is really powerful. And you got to keep remembering, I've got 2 daughters, and I would kept telling them, like, you need to be part of the solution, not people using you to do their work. You need to be in the management, or you need to be powerful enough as a person that people will work with you. I saw a quote not long ago that said, it's between empowering or power over people. I think coaches now, it's about empowering people to be the greatest they could be. And I think that's an important way to do it. Not power going, you are going to do this because I say so. But, guys, we're going to be looking at this. We're looking at that. In 3 weeks from now, we need to be a way better underwater fly kick. Let's figure out a way to make this happen together. Mother Teresa had this greatest quote that said, the power of love will always beat the love of power. And so, it's easy for us. In our sport, I'm not sure if you've ever looked at it that way, but in our sport, the coach is way up on the pool deck or on the starting block, and the swimmers are way down, and they're looking up. It's a dangerous power look over this program. So I say to you, keep coaching, thinking that you're trying to find ways to get closer to the athlete, and coaching. When you need to talk to one athlete, just don't go from the side of the pool yelling at it. Walk around, get on one knee, and talk to them one-on-one at their level. Because in football or basketball, the coach is speaking to the athletes eye to eye. So sometimes we forget that when it's a bit scary, especially for the little guys looking up at the coach. So just keep remembering this when your coaching body language happens. Again, because as a coach, it's about creating an environment where kids can't wait to get to work out, and they're excited to be coached by you, and they what else, coach, can you do? And not just, well, I'm scared of this guy. In any country in the world, the job of a child is to play. Our job is to create the playing environment where playing is about learning and challenging and pushing themselves and breaking mental barriers. That's what we do best. I saw a little quote here. Let me read you. It says, 5 thoughts from a coach who worked with one of the shows, which was Mariah Carey. He said, when I work with these artists, these were 5 things that we could easily put onto our coaching. Details matters. Day-to-day details matters. Coaching technique for us. That's kind of how I see it. Coaching technique. Inspiring them. Talking about body position, head position, why they're doing it. How far you dive. Details matters. I ran a clinic last weekend, again, in Prince Edward Island. We did 45 minutes just diving from the side of the pool with 12 and unders and keeping your streamline to see how many lanes they could go, and head position and so on. And it started with just jumping on the side. And these were already swimmers. Energy is everything. I saw a quote that said, fake it till you make it. But energy is everything. Know your worth. Know that what you do is worth a lot, not just in money, but in changing the world, inspiring kids. Nothing is left to chances. It's not like, okay, we'll see what happens. Like everything's planned, that's what's really good about swimming. You got a stopwatch. Everything is measured if you want. 50 kick, 25 kick, 75 kick. How fast you turn. Everything is measurable if you coach with an instrument. But if you just let them do, and how many strokes you did, I don't know, and so on. Like stroke count is crucial. I had a chance to coach blind kids for a while, and that's what you do all day long. You teach them how to count their strokes for 25 or 50. And I think that's very crossable to the world of variable body. Own your environment. Like make your environment a happy place, a welcoming place, a clean place so it's not a dump, and find a way where people will even ask to help you if you want, if you can do these things. And smile a lot. You know, smile is contagious, just like energy. And you know, sometimes I had to walk around the pool a couple times before I got back because I was getting angry at something, and I just kind of put my smile on and found a solution to get them to go back into what I really want them to do. Here's some of my reflection on coaching. You're in the people business. You're not in the swimming business. Keep remembering this. You're in the people business. You can measure how many cars you sell, but you can't measure happiness. You could create performances through happiness, through goal setting, but not just in the books goal setting in terms of, hey, yesterday, John, you did this, and today you're doing that. You know, you did 24 stroke, today you're 23 stroke. That's 5% better. Like, help create the people that you want to be, including no bullying on your program, including people that are helpful, because these kids are going to be business people tomorrow. They're going to be, you know, parents that want to get their kids involved in sport. You're in the people business. That's number one. Every day is a day that gives you a chance to change for the better. Innovative thinking every day. Innovative thinking every day, I think, to me is that's where, when you get to the pool, you keep going back. How am I going to do this workout? You know, if this has happened, like my hardest years or my hardest days were the Olympic days. It's 8 days, but as the leader, you got to always look 1 or 2 days ahead to see, okay, well, if something happens today that's not really good, how do we make that tomorrow better? Or if people do really well today, they're so excited they can't control their energy, you know, how do I calm everybody down? So to me, as the leader of a national program, those 8 days of swimming were like so tiring, because all day, all night long, I go, okay, well, how can I make this better? How could we set up the workout better, the warm up better, and so on and so forth. Like I said, one of the notes I put, like, you're an artist in your sport. You're a technical coach. You're a teacher. You're not a coach. Like, coaching is the training of a group. Teaching is the illustration of how we could do something better. Not just, okay, we're going to go 2050s and I want you to, you know, work on your turns, and then we let them go. Like, we got to go back, measure the turns, and give them feedbacks on the turn. You need to be ethical. You need to be ethical. We're dealing with kids that are vulnerable. You know, we need to be the most ethical group of people that you could find, because there's a lot of other people within the world that is not. So let's make sure that we have a safe environment for these kids. I think, to me, it's crucial. The language you use, whether it's a positive approach language or a negative approach language, I think that's important. I always talk to the coaches, like, I don't want the coaches to be coaching with the arms like this. You need to use your hands to coach and talk about, you know, show length of stroke, and arms across it. This shows that almost like a disconnect to what's happening. And so to me, I don't want my coaches to be with their arms crossed, and I don't want most people to coach from the end of the pool. Coach from the side, up and down. The swimmers need to be able to see you all over, for a couple of reasons. Oh my goodness, like they're watching my technique, but also they can't fool around with a bad turn at the end, because they know you're there. So I think that's an important one. And the only other thing I would say about this is, are you coaching like you would want a coach to coach your own children? Would you be proud of the coach that coaches your own children if it's you? Because that's what you want. Okay? As a senior level 3 coach and up, you also need to understand that you have a responsibility to mentor coaches below you. They're not just your assistant coaches. You need to watch what they're doing in your program and give them tools and give them tricks of the trade. And that's how they're going to develop and go, wow, like the head coach or the senior coach is noticing what I'm doing. So I think it's the way you could be a senior coach or you could be a head coach. Even a head coach, you need to be able to look around and go, I think this could be done better. So this weekend when I was doing this clinic in Prince Edward Island, I had, 8 young coaches with me, and I kept, they were used to work on the turns and start. And I didn't really work so much with the athletes as I worked with the coaches saying, do you see this? Try to do that, and so on and so forth. So I think to me, you are, you're like the Nobel Prize coach on the pool deck that people look up to. All right. Couple other things that I think you need to create as a coach. You need to create a place where many people around you feel like they're winning because of the work that you're doing with these athletes, including the lifeguards. They need to know, like, wow. And for you to say thanks to the lifeguards or to the front desk people or the people around, for them to go, for you to tell them, listen, it's really nice for you to be early at the pool because then we could get ready for the pool deck and so on. Like, the expression is, who wins with you when you win? Like here in Canada or when I was in Australia, it was writing a note to the school principal to say, thanks on the Friday, thanks for letting these kids leave the school early because we need to go to swim meet. Or the Monday, writing back to the school principal saying, these kids are great. We're really proud of them and they represent your school really well. Like, they're part of your success story. If they're not happy with you, they don't create a good environment. A few other thoughts. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes, but I don't want to miss things that I think are important. Get involved. If your region hosts a meet, get involved. Like, the volunteers are not expert in our sport. You are. So help the volunteers make the environment, the meet, better for you. Like I used to host a meet in Phoenix when I was there. It was a great meet. But the volunteers came in one day and they brought these little sachet of milk for the coffee. And I said, I don't want little, like, these people are coming to my house. They're my friends or our co-clubs. I want a little jar with the milk in it so it looks pretty cool instead of just, your plastic cup and so on and so forth. So to me, the details is what will differentiate you from other places. That's why I think hosting a meet and you being involved in how you want the meet to look like, I think is important. Turn your phone off during the coaching. If you're one of those that can't, you need to put the phone in the office. Like these kids, if you ever have a chance to work with lawyers and have a meeting with lawyers, their phones are never on the table. Their attention is with you. Well, these kids have an hour or 2 hours with you in a day or 3 hours. You need them to see that you have their full attention and you are completely engaged in what you're doing. Turn the phone off. The only time I say it's okay to use the phone is when you want to do a little video so they could see what they're doing. Maybe the streamline is not so good. Like I said, coach from the side of the pool. Set up the pool for success. And I mean, have all the lane lines in. People say, well, we're going to make them tough because they only swim with 2 lane lines. You don't make them tough. The pool has got too many waves. They can't swim butterfly properly. Put all the lane lines in. Put the backstroke flags up. You don't see a Formula One pilot, a driver drive, in a rally in the desert. They practice Formula One course, and the desert drivers practice in the desert. So create the environment where their learning will be the best possible for these swimmers. Be a student of the sport. Now, I could tell you, I probably 3, 4, 5 hours a day. I look at videos about technique, or people make new videos on different exercises in the weight room. They're really cool. And I go, okay, now I could use that. I can't use that. That's no good. I don't believe in this one. Or that's a great one. Even this morning, I was looking at a couple of videos that Monty was doing, the 150 fly world record holder from Switzerland. He was doing some stuff in the weight room that was like, wow, so cool. And I go like, I could be using these things. Try to make one coach better today than you did yesterday. Like, just, you see a coach doing a good job. Like, I go around, even at international meets, I go around the pool and where there's great performance from Ireland or Seoul, Korea, or this or that, I'll go to the coach and say, listen, that was awesome. You did great. Like, what a performance from your athletes. Or I really like this, what you're doing in the drills for your swimmer in the warm-up. What are you doing this for? I always think that's really cool. And find a mentor for yourself. Like, this is cool. This is okay. But it's not like we could talk every day. But I'm just looking outside because there's a huge snowstorm right now. Huh. So get a mentor that you could talk to. Help each other. Just another coach sometime, go for a coffee. What do you think of this? Or I'm stressing with that. What do you think I could be doing? My last point that I'm going to cover is really about the environment. There's all the coaching and everything else, but the environment, whether it's at meets or in the training, to me is what creates the performance. You could have, Michael Phelps or Léon Marchand couldn't do it if he was training by himself. He needs other teammates around that are funny, that work hard, that are positive, some are negative. Our top athletes need an environment where they're excited to go and train, including 8 years old, including adults. For master swimmers that go and they don't like the people, I'm coaching masters here too. If they don't like the people around, or you don't create a cool place to train, they won't go back to you because they don't need to. So I think, to me, the environment is about creating a place where performance is the byproduct, not the other way around. If Michael Phelps, I used to say that to parents in the clubs here when I was a CEO. I said, well, do you guys have the environment that would create a Michael Phelps on your team? And they go, well, no, but we do it if we had a Michael Phelps in our program. And I said, well, you'll never have a Michael Phelps in the program because you didn't create the environment for it. Create a plan, like a yearly plan, a monthly plan, a weekly plan, but it shouldn't be set in stone like, oh, you're not doing the plan, we're going to fail. The plan is a plan. It's kind of like driving from A to B and there's a highway's closed. Well, you take the side road and you go around and you come back in the middle. The plan is to give you the guidelines of how you're going to work things. But I've often, especially for me when I was in China, I didn't really know the language well enough to get a feel for how the athletes felt every day. But I certainly look at their body language. And if I was going to have a really hard workout and I could see them drag themselves, they didn't know what the workout was. I kind of adapted the workout. And sometimes we'd have get out swims, like on Fridays when they were exhausted. I'd do a workout halfway through the workout. I said, okay, Tina, if you go this 32 in the breaststroke in practice, we all go home. My goodness, the Saturday morning was incredible workout because you got so excited the day before, This quote that says, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I go back, keep remembering, we're 7 years out of the Brisbane Olympics, 6.5 years. It's going to go fast. And somebody in your country is going to make the Olympics. Why not one of yours? All right. I bet you talk about environment. I bet you talk about performance. I don't talk about high performance. I talk about daily performances. And so make sure the performances are the best that you could be on that day. The best that you could be. Coaching wise and training wise. And I know some days you go home and the practice they were like terrible. You felt bad about it. It's okay. I would go back the next day and say, guys, like yesterday was just didn't work. And I don't know, I probably didn't plan it properly, or I think, everybody was tired. So today we'll be doing this. When I talk about environment, I'll give you some statistics about Canada here, because I know them and I know the American ones. Canada's got 50,000 swimmers. 30 will make the Olympic Games. And 3 will medal at the Olympic Games. So there's 49,970 swimmers that are never going to go to the Olympic Games. they still have to have a memorable experience on your swim teams. That's where the program is. Build memorable experience for 99.9%. In the US, it's 0.0005% of swimmers that make the Olympic team. 0.0005%. There's a lot of swimmers that don't make it. And that's what you want. You want them to go home or retire after you go, you know what? I wasn't a great swimmer, but wow, these coach believed in me and I did the best I could. And that's because, they might become coaches tomorrow, or parents that put kids in sports, or get involved in officials, or become club presidents, or even work at a big company, electrical company in your country, and say, you know what? I had such a great experience. I'm going to give $25,000 to the program. You never know the long-term effect. And I go back, again, what sets you apart? What environment do you create at the swim club that will go, Like, and every time I was in India and I go to Arizona, and this weekend I was in St. John's, New Brunswick, to another clinic also, and their clocks weren't synchronized. And I had to ask the lifeguard like 3-4 times, let's synchronize the clocks, because you can't really run a workout properly when the clocks are not synchronized. And they didn't understand that. They just had the clock there and they said, well, it's going to work. Well, it just doesn't work like that. And so, again, remember, keep creating the environment where a kid will go, wow, like it flows well. It said, most coaches add things to the program. Great coaches subtract. They simplify, fewer drills, but better executed, shorter practice in terms of complication, more teaching, and less over analyzing. Keep it, that KISS rule, keep it simple, stupid. Like, keep it simple. Even the coach I worked with all week last week, even the warm-up was complicated, and I was trying to be nice, but like I said, what part of your workout where a swimmer could just feel the water and stay relaxed and swim long and get a feel for catching the water with your fingertips, and going like a 50 swim, a 50 pull, a 50 kick, put your paddles, undo your paddles, put the pull buoy on, get back on your kickboard. Like it's just, there's no time to just relax and feel what you're doing. And swimming is such a feeling sport. Don't swim for 3 days and you can't really get it done properly. Let me give you some of the events that I think are cool to create a place where your swimmers could, for me, Friday nights were often testing nights, or Saturday morning were often testing days, where I would do a pentathlon, like a dive 100, back, breast, fly, free, and turn IM. We would add the time together. They could be on 4, 5, 6 minutes. It didn't matter, but I was trying to create racing opportunities in training. There's a Canadian foreign IMer swimmer called Curtis Myden that used to do once every 3 weeks, 5 200, where they would go 200 fly, 200 back, 200 breast, 200 free, 200 IM. And they would add the time together. And every 3 weeks, the game was to try to make the time faster. And they were on 5 minutes, so not a hard interval. But, it was about measuring ways to race and make things more comfortable. Dual meet within your club, red against blue. And it's, it's Saturday morning, bring the little kids, do relays with 8, 10, 12, 14, 16-year-old. Like, build a family before you build a great club. And I think, to me, that's kind of what I always try to do. We would often early in the season go do a run, like a 5K and an 5K. That was a race organized here. And the whole team would come. We'd invite the parents and the siblings and the cousins. And I remember one day we had over 600 of our members all wearing the same T-shirt at a race, 5K. We did a team cheer before. So, like, do things that inspires or gets people excited about your program. I do this thing called Friday night at the races, where the whole team would go 25 kick or a 50 kick or, a 75, dive 75. and we'd have the 8-year-old do 25, 50s, or 75. So we do 2 or 3 events and have a barbecue. So once a month, we do Friday night of the races, and the whole team would participate. And I'd made sure that the older kids knew the little kids, so that in the locker room, they would go and say, oh, Michael, you did really good last week at the swim meet, I heard. Good job. Little Michael will want to be like them later. But if the big kids go in the locker room and push the kids away and say, that's my shower, get out of here, well, it certainly doesn't create the environment that you want for your own children. I would do a swim meet also that was called the Cactus Classic. So instead of medals, I had these little cactuses, for 3rd place, 2nd place, and 1st place with a big cactus. And again, they would go and pick up the cactus. So try to be innovative in the approach that you're creating for your club. Couple other things that I did, I think is really important, because we don't do enough swim meets where they have a chance to do their best time. When they're 8 and 10 and 12, every time they dive, they do best time, but a bit later. So I created training records, especially kicking. The whole team, we had a board, training records for 25, 50, 75, 100, 200, 400, 500, and 1,000 kick. And once in a while on Friday afternoon, we do a 200 kick with the senior kids, maybe 100 kids for the little kids. I'd have a board because I wanted to create, like I mentioned to you about the rock climbing, many little success stories through the weeks and through the months, so the kids could keep getting engaged. And I was a lot faster. I was 35 for the 25 kick last time. Now I'm 31. Wow. Hey, Mom, guess what? So I created club records, age group club records for 8 and unders, 10 and unders, 12 and unders for meet. And then we had certificate if you broke a club record or you got a special shirt. Or then after a while, we created a top 10 of the club records. So, maybe the club record is really hard for a 14-year-old, but maybe 2nd and 3rd place would be really good. So I'd aim at we had on the board state records, national records, how they were swum, the splits, and then we would try to swim the splits. Maybe the 200 splits for the world record was, like 25, 27, 27, 27. So we would try to go, in practice 27s and if you couldn't do it just swimming, you do it with fins on or fins and paddles. Like, get them to see what's possible, the world of possibilities. I had a Top Gun award, which I had on the cap, an F-18 or a jet. And it was our Top Gun award when something was done that was spectacular in a meet or in practice. We'd give them the cap. I had 100% attendance forms. Again, it was to celebrate the quality that you want to develop in your swimmers: resilience, attendance, being on time, being a great teammates. And so having an 100% event, you've got 8 and 10-year-old that had, every Monday we get this percentage, 100% award, and some of the older kids didn't. And the older kids would go like, it's not fair. And I go, well, it is. They've been at their 6th practice for the month. You're asked to come to 8 practice and you come to 6. You miss 25% of your workouts. How happy would you be if you're 25% off your best time at the meet? So, special certs. And we'd often try to go every year with our team at, again, creating events at meets that we didn't go the year before. A few things about training, and maybe the next presentation will be a lot more about training, but if you create the environment, if you're an inspiring coach, the training will happen by itself. Now, Bob Bowman's got a great website, and University of Texas, he always posts great sets, and Dave Salo. There's a lot of coaches around the world that set. So, getting those are not as important as the philosophy behind your training program. And so, to me, there's a few of them. You should be kicking between 20 and 25% of all of your workouts. And not slow. Like, not just plop, 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 and everybody talks. Like, there's never slow kicking in racing. Ever, ever, ever. From the dive where you kick fast underwater to negative splitting, the teams that are the best and the athletes that are the best are great kickers. They need good ankle flexibility. So stretching ankles before training or doing ankle rotation. All of these things are really important. That's why the club records for me are really important. I had this breaststroke girl in China that, the game was to try to swim breaststroke under 15 seconds as a girl and kick breaststroke under 17 seconds for a 25 kick. I had a boy, 50 breaststroke boy that was fourth at the Olympics, 200 breaststroke. He was 18. He could kick 100 breaststroke in 107 and 50 breaststroke in 31. That was show course, but I made a point of making sure that they were going to be the best kicker in the world. And then after that, celebrate the little victories within your program. Think about how you teach. I could tell you that we do a lot of vertical fly kick. We do a lot of breaststroke kick off the wall. Like, how many kick could you do in 20 seconds? We go for 10 seconds, 20 seconds on, 20 seconds off. Again, for breaststrokers, they should be able to go 30, 35 kick in 20 seconds. Vertical kick, we try to go 3 kick a second or 2 kicks a second vertical kick. If they get too good, they hold a weight. So to me, the concept of the kick and the concept of putting challenges is important. I would say that the importance also is looking at building land workouts and coordination drills for little kids all the way up, so that by the time they're 14, 15, 16, they could do good work, good chin-ups, good jump rope. Like, there's a lot of kids that can't jump rope anymore. And jump rope is a great skill development and coordination development. A world record is only somebody's best time. And so to me, when somebody breaks their best time, I go, wow, Johnny, you just get your Johnny world record today. That's awesome. Because that's all it is. A world record is somebody's best time, and they're breakable. It gets harder, but they're breakable. So Elon Musk, whether you like him or not, from Tesla, I read a thing, I'm not a fan of him, but I read a thing that he wrote many years ago, is create a 10-year plan for yourself and try to do as much as you can in 6 months. Like, the urgency to become the best that you could be, I think, to me is really important. I can tell you that all of these things that I talked to you about comes from talking to coaches, reading a lot, watching in meets what people do, introducing myself to people, saying, hey, what are you doing? This kid is so good, and be positive as much as I can. And I get tired and I get frustrated when I coach, but when I coached this master's practice last Monday, helping another coach, it was so fun because the masters were just like, oh, I never thought of this, and I go, well, it's going to make you go longer, and long boats swim faster, and long boats go faster than small boats, and it's really cool. You got magic in your hands. You just got to make it happen. And for me, doing this, but also I'm a bit older now, and even my partner's going like, why are you still doing this? Why are you still coaching? And I go like, it's hard to get out of your system. When you see somebody smile because they feel they got something better, it's hard not to have a warm heart for that. So thanks. It's been great. Hopefully we could do more. And, remember, we're only doing swimming and inspiring kids. We're not solving world hunger. So, be intentional in creating a positive environment where kids want to learn, not a place where they're scared to go to.
Wonderful, Coach. Thanks so much. Hey, I have some follow-up questions for you. So you talked about the fast kicking and timing the athletes, especially in China. Did a 31 short course, 50-meter kick. But can you balance out how fast were those swimmers in their swimming breaststroke compared to their kicking breaststroke?
Breaststroke. That's a great question.
What's good swim time compared to what's a good kick time?
So the breaststroke boy would go around of maybe 825s. I would go like 5 times 825s on 45. or a minute. It wasn't as important as the time. And I wanted him to go 13 seconds every time. And so he could kick 15 or 14 for 125, 31 for 150, but 13 seconds. And the game, when we were swimming a similar set for 850s or 5 rounds of 450s, you need to go 29 every time. In training, he would dive at 28. The girl, we would go long course, especially. The game that we were trying to do is for her to go 33 as many times as possible. Let's say we'll go 12 50s on 130 or 450s on 2 minutes. She needed to push 33 on the second 50, on the 50, which was the second 50 of the 100 that we were trying to beat.
And that was her swimming time of 33.
Yes.
And then how fast could she kick?
She kicked 36. She would kick 36 once. If we do like a 12 50s, the game was to break 40 all the time. Now, one thing that's really good, Mark, is I have this kicking set that I think is my favorite of all, including the 1,000 and 2,000 kick and so on. But it goes like this. It's a 75 kick. It's a short course set. Short course meters. 75 kick. You had to go faster than your best 100 time swim. So, if you go 106, you breaststroke, or you go 50 fly, you need to kick faster than 50 for 75 kick. That's one. Then we go 50 easy. Then we go 25 kick as fast as you can. And then the 50 easy. There's no interval. You go 75 kick, turn around, 50 easy. And we would do this. We would start at 4 times. I'd build it all the way up to 8 or 10 times through the season. And then I go back down to 4 times. And so to me, that gave really an speed endurance set. I'm not one of those that know everything about lactic and A1, A2, A3, A4. I just kind of look at how it compares to the best time. And again, one of the things that I in the last 20 years of my coaching that I thought I learned maybe a bit better was being, you probably, like me, we did a lot of sets, hundreds or 105 or 110 and get tough and see how long you could. And I remember going, yeah, but keep repeating 110 is only 440, 403. How about if I go, 8 100s on 145, holding 101 for a girl? That's 404. Well, that's pretty close to the world record. That's, so I kind of changed my approach. I did have these really tight sets, like 3100s, 10 on 120, 10 on 130, 10 on 140, and I had to go best average. But I did a lot more closer to race pace plan type of thing. Does that make sense?
Sure. Oh, thanks for that. The Olympics just happened, the Winter Olympics. Do you have any nuggets or observations from the Winter Olympics? Maybe it was the gold medal hockey games or.
Oh my goodness! Canada almost lost to Czech Republic, and I Googled or I chat GPT the mass salary for the Czech Republic athletes that were playing against Canada was, I think, $11 million, and Canada's salary for all their players was something like $115 million, and they had to go in overtime to beat the Czech Republic. I think what's really exciting about the Winter or the Summer Olympics is seeing what people could do at the highest level under the highest stress. And I'm sure you would agree with me with that. At the highest level under the highest stress is when your weakest training points come out, is when you don't do your turns properly. It shows under the highest stress. And so your level of training performances in terms of quality of what you do will show off or will put you down, when it's hardest. So you see this very much with the Winter Olympics also. You probably don't know, but I was the CEO. After Swimming Canada, I took a couple of years out of swimming, and I was the CEO of the national cross-country ski team. And, it was really cool because it's a very demanding sport like swimming, and it's very measurable too, and they race 50K, 15K, 10K. And many, many years ago, the 50K, a little bit like our 1500 swimmers, they would just swim or ski, and they start getting beaten by the 10K, which takes about 30 minutes. And so the whole training changed. People start training like the 10K and adding more volume, more distance, not the other way around. So yeah, it's very similar. And to me, I've been watching the Paralympics. You've got to watch something that's incredible. It's the curling. If you have a chance to watch curling at the Paralympics, they're in a wheelchair. They have a stick that they push the stone, and that is impressive. Let me tell you, I think it's even more impressive than able-bodied curling.
Well, yeah, I was really impressed with Norway in the 50K 1, 2, 3. I think.
I know
the men, that was crazy.
But you know what, Norway, and I know that I got to know the coaches well there. Like, that's what they do all day long. That's their sport. And they ski to school, and even the prime minister of Norway on this property has got a groomed cross-country ski trail. So him and his wife, and on Sunday it's open to the public. Like, that's how much pride they put into it. And you heard me talk about environment. Well, the environment there is just, a lot of Canadians go train there because it's a great place to train.
Okay, then what about the Chinese athletes at the Winter Olympics? They didn't do so well, I don't think, compared to like 4 years prior when they hosted the Winter Olympics. How do you sum up some of the current or present, or even the future outlook for the Chinese Olympians, especially coming into LA 28?
Yeah, I actually think they're going to get better and better and better, because they're going to start feeling like it's a mark of respect on your performance, whether it's at the summer or the winter. I think in terms of sports that are technical, they're really good at. I think I don't think in bobsleigh they're great at. I don't think in hockey they're good at, because most of their team sport they're not very good at. But they did quite well in the moguls and figure skating, and the other thing that's an interesting one for people to know is most of those Chinese sports are coached by coaches from the northern countries. I know their curling is coached by Canadian. The hockey team is coached by Canadian, both men and women. And so, it's or the girl that won quite a few events in downhill skiing is actually an American with Chinese parents, and she took the Chinese nationality to go for China. So, but not much different. You probably know that, but not much different. In Canada, we won 6 medals at the Olympics, and all 6 medals actually train in the U.S. So through whether the college system or club system. So, I think if I was a world-class athlete, I'd look for the best place for me to train. I know Fred Verneau in Antibes in France has a lot of foreign swimmers in this World Aquatic Center. That and now you're starting to see great performances in some of the events, because they go the best swimmers, one best swimmer per country go train there. And so,
well, then I have one selfish question. Dr. John Hogue from BC, Canada, had a book that we've put back in print on mental skills for young athletes. Do you know Dr. Hogue? Can you speak to that book? Can you give me some background on that, your experiences there?
John was actually part of our sports psychology team for the longest time. He was a professor at University in Edmonton, University of Alberta. A great guy, great man. And I love that book, and I got rid of a bunch of books not long ago, and that's one of the books I kept because it's simple. I said before, keep it simple, stupid. Like, it's simple, it gives you tools, and at the end, my belief in the sports psychologist, the book is really good, and it gives you tools for coaches to, whether they do goal setting or so on. But I think the sports psychologist should be working with the coaches a lot more to give them tools on how to work with their athletes, and watch from afar and look for the environment and look for the body language of coaches, and for them to go back to coaches and go, like, you're always on that kid's butt all the time. Like, maybe you want to give it a break a bit, And even on the national team, I think the sports psychologist should be way more involved with we're not talking about clinical psychology, where I would call it more performance psychology. And performance psychology is about empowering and giving tools to power, and not, to tell me your problems here, like, I don't think so. I think, simple tools for coaches, and simple tools for, like, even the goal setting. I know a lot of people do a lot of that. I talk about daily goals, or I talk about weekly goals, and part of my training and things expected for the kids and so on. And yes, they put their goals in the locker rooms or in the ceiling in their bedroom. That's all good. But if they don't see the little progression on the day-to-day basis, like, you swim a meet every 2 months or every month, it's a long time before you see, success stories. So you got to create the daily goals that will be way more exciting than, it's a bit more work for us coaches, but what else do we have to do except inspiring kids? I got to go play ice hockey on a team.
Ooh,
so
wow.
I can't miss that.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
That's what. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Coach. We will be talking to the others. Thank you, Coach. We don't have the right words to say thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. It's fantastic. Love it. Thank you.
Thank you.